Good morning or good evening, depending on where you're connecting from. My name is Zachary Stank. I'm your host today for this automation webinar from Phoenix Contact. I'd like to welcome you all. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for taking time out of your day to learn a little bit more about PLCnext. Before we begin, I want to introduce the speaker today. So today's speaker is Yuri Chamarelli. Yuri is our lead product specialist for control, which means he interfaces directly with our PLCnext products. Yuri is going to lead us through what you need to do on PLCnext Engineer to get started. He's also going to go through a little bit of the basics of PLCnext and how the system works. And after that, we'll be open to Q&A as Yuri walks you through how to do your own PLCnext program. So you can see Yuri's got his screen shared. He's got the PLCnext up and running. So before we start, just a quick overview here. We are on a 20-second delay. So as we present, we'll do our best to cover questions and answers. You have the opportunity to ask us questions as we're going through. I will be monitoring the Q&A while Yuri presents, and I will at times interrupt him to ask him a question. If we don't answer your question immediately, it's not because we're ignoring you. Sometimes that delay means that we've skipped to another slide or moved on before we got to your question. So please stick around towards the end, and we will make sure to get to all the questions that are answered during this time. If for any reason you have to leave the webinar or you have somebody that you think this would be useful to, you can always go back to phoenixcontact.com/US-webinars, and that'll take you right to the landing page where you can review all of these that we've done previously or sign up for new ones. The link that you have now will be useful and used to review this or to watch it again at a later date. So if for some reason you can't attend the entire thing, you are welcome to go back. You can sign back up even if you've lost the link, and that link will work in the future to watch this again. So without further ado, Yuri, go ahead.
Hey, Zach, thank you. Thank you for the kind introducing over here. And again, we here today basically to talk about PLCnext a little bit. And Zach already kind of introduced us, but just again, he's our contact. My name is Yuri Chamarelli. I'm the specialist for the PLCnext technology, and Zach is the product marketing manager for it. And if you guys need to contact us, please do. The email, it's right below our pictures over there. And I like to start by explaining, just a little quick overview on what is PLCnext, okay? And basically, it's a digital transformation asset. PLCnext was developed to be a digital transformation PLC. So we all know automation is going through a transformation right now. Companies are migrating systems, they are connecting to the cloud, they are creating digital twins, digitalized assets, name the buzzwords that you guys may have heard and or you guys use in your organizations. But it's all about being open, right? And this device is what we call a state-of-the-art digital ecosystem. We can do traditional PLC, and that's what I'm going to show you guys today. How do you do traditional PLC programming? But I just like you to keep in mind that this device is also open because it is based on a Linux OS, which means because of that, we are IIoT ready. In Linux, we can install cloud, applications. We can install databases applications. We can be connected directly to IT systems. We can be that interface in between OT, operations technology, automation, and IT. And the revolutionary is really the stack I like to talk about today. It's how we revolutionized the way we do automation programming, classic ladder logic and things like that. We added these things on top of it to make cooler and easier, and we're going to get to that. So very quickly, again, flexibility of a Linux device plus the reliability of a PLC. How we accomplish that, right? I'm going to talk about that a little bit. Also, what is being IoT ready? We can connect to any cloud, and we can just send about any data to any cloud. And we also have a cloud called Proof Cloud, and that's a cloud by Phoenix Contact. And we have a pretty cool, pretty neat solution in there where you can very easily create dashboards and show your data online in real time by just checking a box in the PLC programming. Finally, today is about PLCnext Engineer, which is, again, I'm going to show you guys, is the platform, the programming environment, which you can use to program PLCnext controllers. It's not the only one you can use, but it's the one Phoenix Contact designed for, and it comes with all the add-ins and the cool stuff that we designed around this PLC. Okay, so first of all, if you haven't downloaded it yet, you can go to the webpage, the Phoenix Contact webpage, phoenixcontact.com, and search for PLCnext Engineer. And Zach, if you can just put the part number on the chat, or search for the part number, and you will find the part, and you can go to downloads. Okay, I can show that on the screen if you have time. And you just download the platform. It's free to download. It's free to install, free to start using and programming. And it comes with things like IC 61131, ladder logic, structured text, and we also have extendable licenses that allow you to do things like Simulink MATLAB or CFC programming, a sequential functional chart. We also have safety programming embedded in this platform that we can allow through add-ins. Okay, and again, those add-ins, just like any software company, we also are in the business of selling add-ins, of course, and we have a price for those add-ins. But 99, I want to say 95% of the applications that you can do with PLCnext Engineer, they will not need those add-ins. So potentially, most likely, your application will run for free. There is no tag limitation, no data limitation, no protocol limitations with the free license. Okay, and please you can send any questions on the chat about any limitations, concerns that you may have. But I'm telling you, those add-ins are very specific for safety, MATLAB, and things like that. Okay, so pretty quick introduction over here. So this software, it's very integrated. It allows you to do safety, allows you to do visualization, allows you to do standard programming, which for us is ladder logic and structured text, and also allows you to do all your network configuration. Okay, plus diagnostics, firewall, and all that. So that's the view, the main view that you see, and I just want to kind of touch on that before I bring the software in the screen and we go a little hands-on here. But you have the left side where you do all your programming, and we call those instances. That's all about programming and how your configuration is being deployed in your project. So it's all about what's existent, what's being deployed. That's on the left side. Okay, the editors is what you're doing at that moment. Okay, and the right side is everything that you can add to your project. Okay, and you also can open those options using editors. So basically, the dynamic of programming in this platform is you have something on the left side and you have something on the right side. You build your programming by dragging things from the right side and dropping on the left side, and then using the editors to configure things in both sides. Okay, and also on the bottom we have this thing called cross functions. where we have all the arrows, logs, debugging options, watch windows, logic analyzer, and some high-end functionalities that you can use. So again, plant area, and you have components area, editors, and cross functions. Okay, so if you split the software that way, it's pretty easy to navigate through it, and it should be pretty easy to understand. Okay, so now I'm gonna basically bring it over to the screen. You may get a cut on the presentation because I got to stop sharing for a second. And I'm gonna go back to sharing right now. And this is PLCnext Engineer. When you open for the first time, it looks like that. And I just want to remind you guys that I'm using version 2021.0.1. That is the latest version available. And if you haven't found yet where to download PLCnext Engineer, and maybe you want to download as you're watching this, webinar, I'm just going to show you guys one more time. So the website's opening over here in the background. So
Yuri, I did put in a link directly to PLCnext Engineer in the Q&A, so everybody should be able to link there. You go to the download section, and you'll be able to download PLCnext Engineer.
Awesome, perfect. Thank you, Zach. All right. So in the meantime, if you guys downloading the software, awesome. So the link that Zach sent to you guys on the chat will take you here. And then if you look for PLCnext Engineer with port number 104.6008, right? You will find a page that looks like that. And then under downloads, okay, you can find the latest version under software, right? And you just need to hit the download, and it's going to be called, of course, PLCnext Engineer. The very latest one we have over here, it's called the hotfix, and that's something really cool about the way we manage the software. If we find a problem at any point during the year, at any point, we will release a hotfix within a couple of weeks, and that just happened. So we had a problem in the software, a little bug, and we fixed and we released the software right away. So that is the very latest one. You just hit that link and you will download it. So once you install your software and you run for the first time, you will look like that. And I just want to tell you guys that we have plenty of options over here for templates. But be just aware that every controller, okay, has a different firmware version. And I have two controllers over here, if you guys can see me on camera. This is the AXC2152, the one I'll be showing the project with. And we also have the 3152. I'll show you guys more details on the end. But those templates can be used to start your programming a little faster, okay? Just be aware that the number after the slash means the firmware version. Today, I'm gonna just go from scratch. So I'm gonna click over here on new project. And I'm gonna start a plant project from scratch with no resources, nothing. So the first thing you gotta do is, as you can see, if you click over here, your project is empty. There is nothing going on. And you basically need to follow what the software is telling you, which is there are no resources defined. So the easiest way to add a PLC to your project is by using the online controllers functionality. So basically, you pick your network adapter and you run the scanner, okay? And you will find a controller within the network, and we'll give you option to add a controller to the project. So if you found the control over here, it's telling me that the station name is AXCF2152, and I have an IP address, subnet mask gateway, and also MAC address. So it's as easy as giving it a name, okay? And I can give it a name here and select that, or I can just select it and hit this little plus over here, which is add the select device to the project. When I do that, it asks me for the firmware version, okay? And I know this PLC is on firmware version 2021.0.0. If you don't know that, the easiest way to find out is by navigating to the IP address of that device, which is 192.168.1.10, and that's the default IP address, /WBM for web-based management. Okay, that will take you to the PLC. And if you have to log into the web page for the first time, okay, and that's all in the manual. The username is going to be admin, and the password is printed in the enclosure, okay, right here in the enclosure. And Zach, maybe if you could do me a favor, maybe you want to paste on the chat the picture of the manual where it shows where the password is. It's actually on the quick start guide. I'm gonna show you guys on the screen, but also Zach is gonna have posted.
Yeah, hold it up again to your camera. They could probably see it better. I've spotlighted you.
Yeah, it's right here. It says password. Okay. I'll have a picture of it posted, and then you can see as you go into the web page management, you can see on the top right side of the page your hardware version and your firmware version right there. So it's telling me 2021.0, so that means in my program I'll pick 2021.0. Okay, so I select that, hit OK, and it will add to my project. Boom, I get a check mark over there. It will give a name, which you can change. You also can change the IP address over here if you want it. You can change the subnet, you can change the gateway, and you can start programming. But always pay attention to what the compiler is telling you. So it's telling you over here that the device lies above the network and address. So it just means that you need to fix that, and you can always double click on the description code, and it will take you to the problem. And what's telling you over here is that the IP address is not on the subnet.1.10, it's in a different subnet. Okay, so how do you fix that? You go to project, and under settings, you can change your IP range. Okay, and you just change that from 0 to 1, and now everything is on the same subnet. There are plenty of guides on how to do that, by the way, and you can see that the error has gone away. We have plenty of guides on how to do that on the PLCnext community. I'm going to give you guys the link on the end of this presentation. So now the next step is to add the first program. So you already have your device that was added over here, and you can see the name, you can see the part number, the firmware version. You know, you can add function, you can type a location, you can change the IP address, you can select automatic or manual, which takes to the HCP and things like that. And you can start creating your project. Okay. So the first thing you do after adding your PLC is adding your first program, which can be created under programming on the right side, okay, by clicking on local, and you have data types, function blocks, and program, and you just click on program and you add a program. So a new program, which you can change the name for. So I'm gonna call my program. And you double click on it. And the first thing it asks you is which kind of code worksheet you want to use. So we have a ST kind, we have a ladder logic kind, and we have a node, which is very similar to SFC worksheet. Today I'm going to go with ladder, and I just hit that, and that will create your space to start programming over here, and it's all blank. And we're going to do something really simple that you all will understand and relate to. So, and on the top over here, we have plenty of options to insert connectors, to create a logic line, a ladder logic power rail. You can add contacts, you can add coils, or you can also just type things down and create variables on the go on the screen. Okay, so first of all, I'm gonna add a power rail. Okay, boom. Now I want to add logic to the power rail. So let's say that I have a digital input. So I'm gonna add a contact, and I'm gonna call that contact, you know, D01, D01. There you go. And then I have options over here to make this a variable, local or external, or even a program global variable. We're just gonna do a local variable for now. We're gonna make it a local variable, okay? And I'm gonna create a logic for this contact. And the logic I wanna do today is just a AND port. Let's just do a digital AND port. So, and that can be a function block. So to add a function block to your ladder logic line, you have a few options. You can just navigate on the right side over here and find your AND port by searching and dragging and drop, okay? Or also hit the line where you want to add the port and type down AND, and that will bring it up a function block icon, and if you hit that, it adds the AND port. Okay. Now I want to add a second input to that function block, so I'm going to add a second rail here, and I also want to add a second contact to that rail, and I'm going to call that the D02, and you want to connect that to your block. Okay. Now everything is connected. I'm also going to make this a local variable. And of course, you have an output, and you can just create a contact straight up over here by clicking on the output point and hitting contact. Boom, that creates a coil. Okay. And finally, you need to finish the rail. So you need to add a AND to your power line. So you have two inputs, AND port, and a coil. Okay. You also need to make the coil a local variable. So your logic's done. Your logic is done. Now we need to do a few other things before you deploy this project onto the controller. And the first thing you got to do after you finish programming is creating a task, because no program runs without a task. So to add a task to your program, it's very easy. You just click on PLCnext, okay, twice, double click, and that will open a task and events selector guide. So all PLCnext controllers are dual core, which means you can use different cores to schedule your tasks, and you can have up to 16 tasks with this controller per core. So this controller will do a total of 32 tasks, the 2152, and the 3152 will do a total of 64 tasks. that is really handy if you're programming for a application that requires you to run logic and communication in different time schedules. Let's say that your logic needs to run really fast, but your communication doesn't need to run really fast. So let's say you're doing Modbus and for a packaging machine. Your packaging process needs to be really fast, so you can schedule to a task that runs under 100 milliseconds. But Modbus, we know Modbus is not fast. It's not faster than probably half of a second, so you can schedule that to a different task. And if your program gets too big, those time pickers, right, on how fast your tasks run, really makes a difference on how you're using the processing capability of that device. Okay, so I'm going to create one task on the first core, ESM1, and I'm going to schedule my program to that task. Okay, and when you create a task, you have a few options over here. It can be cyclic, it can be event, and it can be idle, which means it runs as fast as possible, and it can be a user event task. We're going to keep cyclic for today, and my interval is going to be 100 milliseconds. Okay, and under program type, you can see that it's open over here. It's waiting for you to tell the task which programs you want to run on it. So when you hit that, it shows you the available programs created within your components. So we created that program together, main program. So I'm going to add that to the task. And now it's ready to go. Okay, it's ready to run. So all you need to do right now is to go to your PLC over here, double click, and under cockpit, you have an option of deploying your project. So first of all, you want to connect to your controller, and when you hit that, it will connect. It will show you memory, it will show you CPU load of both cores, the total of it summed. We'll show you the project name of any project that may be in that controller already. So you have a bunch of cool diagnostics over here that you can use. To deploy your code, to deploy your program, you're going to hit this little down arrow, and you're going to say write and start project. You can also deploy changes, and you can deploy with sources, which means this project source is being saved in the device. Okay. If you like that option, in case you lose the project, you can just recover that project from the controller itself. You can do that. I'm just doing start the project without sources for today. Just save a little time. And keep an eye over here on the right side, and we'll tell you what's going on. And this will change from okay, now you have device state running. So it means you can debug. So you can see that on the tabs over here, you get this little triangle changing colors. It means that your device is online and debugging. So you can go to your program and it's going to look gray, meaning you can't change anything. But you can see this arrow, which attaches to the logic and allows you to do debugging. So now you can see that the energized lines are red, kind of like pinkish, and you have these lines that are offline. So you can even test your code over here by overwriting from false to true, and then you can change the status of your end port by toggling both of them. Okay, so you see that now the coil is activated. All right, so that's the very basic way of programming PLCnext Engineer. And the last thing I want to show you guys before we open up for questions is, what if I want to do visualization from this program? Okay, I just want to be dynamic and create my visualization screens from here. Really easy. First, you stop debugging. Otherwise, you can't do any programming. And you will see this option over here called EHMI Web Server. Okay. First thing you want to do is to go to this application and right-click and add HMI page. Okay. When you add this HMI page, you can go into it and you can start creating screens. So here's your screen. You can even change, the sizing over here, the resolution, all that. But I just want to be quick and show you guys the simple way of doing logic on that screen. So the first thing you want to do is to add an object. So since we have a program that says if 2 of my inputs go on, my end port makes that coil on. So let's make a screen that reflects the status of that coil. Okay, so that's really easy. I just need that screen to have one light, right? So again, the way PLCnext Engineer works, the resources are always on the right side. So over here we have something called HMI, and if you drop that menu, you're going to see all the objects we have available. So let's add, for the example, a light. Let's go with Olympus. So we add this Olympus to the program. Okay. And then we need to add a dynamic to that. But before we make that dynamic, we need a HMI tag which reflects the status of coil. Okay. And to do that, it's really, really easy. From your program, go to variables right here on the left top and find the variable you like to make an HMI tag from and find the option HMI. Check the box. Okay. And that's done. It's going to be available within the HMI right now. So if you go back to HMI under your page, okay, and we want to add a dynamic to that object, we just go to dynamics right here under the options, new dynamic, and I wanted the color of the circle. I want that to change if my coil is true. So I'm going to go for color, fill, and now it's asking me for a variable. So which variable is that? Of course, the coil. So how do we find it? Easy. You look for your program, which is right here, my program 1, and then you add a dot, and we'll show you all the available variables. So my program.c001 is the coil. Select that, click outside, and we'll give you some animation options. We can even make it blink. Let's go for median. And I have a color for false. And I want to make that color red. And my color for true is going to be green. And that's it. That's about it. Now what do? You redeploy your program so those changes can be added to it. So right-click and do the changes, right? And start project with changes. Hello, we have a little, okay. Very, very good. So the software is telling me that I have a problem. No start page specified for the EHMI application. So my web server is looking for a page that is the main page. And to do that, it's really simple. You just right-click on the page that you like to make the start page, the main page. Right-click and set HMI page as a startup. There you go. Now we'll compile and I can deploy the changes. Cool. So I'm gonna have to kind of split the screen right now to show you guys this, but it's really awesome. So right now, if I go back to my debug here, and into my program, just like we did before. Okay. Attached to my program, so I can do simulation. And now on my web page, okay, under the IP address of that PLC, you're gonna have a visualization. As you can see, the light's already flashing. And I can make a stop by just toggling this back to true to false. Boom. Now my end port's closed, my coil is off, and my light went red. I'm gonna go back to green, just toggle again. Boom. So this is pretty much how PLCnext Engineer works with logic and creating HMIs, which are like HTML5 based HMIs. And for the HTML5 programmers watching this, maybe there's some of you guys out there, you can just use a console over here, your debugger, Shift Control J, and you can see everything that is going on that element. So there's no real secret. The source is open. You can even modify that for your needs. So here, the SVG, it's basic SVG HTML5 programming. So here's all the elements we're using on that, and you can change it. You can make it prettier. You can make the logic better. The source is right here. There's a JS file behind everything, of course. It's JavaScript. And you can tweak that file if you like it, and and make it better, make it custom for your project. Cool. I think with that, Zach, I just like to show the EHMI one more time, not the EHMI, the WBM one more time, and we can open for questions. So
while you're doing that, I got one question for you that came in.
Sure.
So how do you turn off the login page for the HMI? So if you're not going to use the HMI, or you don't want people getting to the HMI page?
Very good question. So first of all, in PLCnext Engineer, you can do that. If you want to have a login page, you just go over here, login, right? And under application, web server settings. Okay, let me stop debugging over here so I can show you guys. Under settings for your web browser, you can use the PLCnext user management to enforce that security. However, this configuration reflects to whatever you configure in the web page of the PLC under user authentication. So if you go to the IP address WBM, again, login in, and go to security user authentication, you can create users. So I have one user over here, admin, and I have disabled the authentication. Okay, so if I enable that, okay, now I gotta log it in. And when I redeploy my project, okay, when I redeploy my project, that will be enforced. Oops, So a detail as well. So the login page needs to be set up to be a startup too. And then you just need to redeploy a project. And that will ask, I don't know why it didn't go on the first try here. Oh, IP address. Oh, it looks like I disabled more stuff that I can't show you guys right now.
But it's the miracle again, of live demos, Yuri.
Live demos. But again, guys, if you just mark those options in the application, in the web server, your web page, the login web page will come up, and you're gonna have the security. Could be the navigation over here.
So for the sake of time, Yuri, I know you wanted to move on and show us something else.
Absolutely. So yeah, the next thing I want to show you guys is still on the web page management. So over here we have a few options that will help you to work with this device. Okay, so under general data we have all the information, firmware version, and all that. On the network, you can see your IP address, all the configurations that your device may have. We also have a diagnostic option, which shows you if the Profinet stack is running, if you have any Profinet device, even if you have a tree of Profinet devices, you can see over here. You also have the local bus, so if you have any axial line modules installed in this PLC, you can see that the diagnostic is over here and you can fix it. We also have a notification that tells you everything that has happened to that PLC. If you deployed a new project, if you stopped, if you run, and this is a log file, which is available in the system, and you can get a log file from the network. So it's really good for applications. On the configuration, we have the PLCnext store that can be enabled and disabled. We have ProfCloud, and we have the web services. So the web browser that I showed you guys, that visualization, right, can be used with security or no security. And you have also your OPC UA security option over here if you want to set all your security configurations over your OPC UA. And you can generate your HTTP certificates and all that for networks. And finally, under security, you have your users that you can disable and enable the authentication. You can create new users here, and you can change the roles. Okay. Also, we have LDAP. If you're using LDAP for your user management. And we have a firewall. So this PLC comes with firewall off the box, and you can enable and disable ports and things like that. Also, SD card. This device has a SD card option, which you can turn on, turn off, which backs up all your contents in an SD card automatically. And also, finally, over here, firmware update is done from the web page. And the license management, if you have any apps. On my case over here, I have an AmiGuard app, so it shows over here. And finally, the PLCnext apps that you may have installed, they will always show here. And you can install apps offline, and here's where you go to install apps offline. I think with that, Zach, I kind of finish, and I'm open for questions.
Excellent. We have a couple questions already queued up for you. So this first one is about the software and updating to different versions. Can you update the software from the software, or do you have to go to our Phoenix Contact website to get the new software every time?
Yes, you have to go to the web page to get a new version of the software. There is no online update because you can have multiple instances of that software installed in your PC. So you can have, let's say that you have PLCnext Engineer 20.6, okay, which is the last year version, and you want to also have 2021 that just came out. So the only way we can do that, we can make that happen, is by having different installers, okay? And why would you do that? Well, maybe you want to stay in a stable version of the software. You want to stay in a version that says, and if you go over here, you can see the version. You want to stay in the version that says LTS, okay? And then you can do that. LTS is long-term supported. This version that I'm using for the presentation is actually not LTS. That's the latest one that came out. The LTS is the one that says 0.0. So if you want the long-term support, you can stay on that version. But let's say you're doing a project, you're programming, and you want to test the latest functionalities. You can just use this version. But if you find a problem, you just go back to the other version, and everything is seamless, and you can just open your program from any version. Okay, that's why we do that way.
Excellent. So just to reiterate there, you can have multiple instances of PLCnext Engineer versions on your PC, right?
And you can, yes, and you can also use multiple instances at the same time. You can open 2021 and open 2020.6 at the same time and use both. Let's say that you're converting a project from one version to the other, you can open both at the same time.
So for instance, if somebody was using 2020.6 and they developed, a hardware platform on it, and they, we're in the future now and they're at 2020.0 LTS, and they want to maybe migrate to a new platform, they can do that while maintaining their old platform, right?
Yes.
Okay. Another question that we have here, can you tell us about the SQL read-write capabilities?
Yes, absolutely. So this PLC comes with a few options for databases. One is a NoSQL, no SQL option, which is embedded in the software. So let's say you did your program over here, okay, and you have your variables, and you like these variables to go to your data logger, okay. You just mark them as OPC, and then on the PLCnext, okay, and we have a very cool guide for that in the PLCnext community. On the PLCnext, we have a data logger session. So in here, you can create a new session, and then you can, define the sampling interval, the publishing interval, buffer capacity, the store capacity. If you want that SQL file to rewrite the data or overwrite the data, if you cross a capacity, or if after the certain time you overwrite data and all that. So, and then you pick your variables right here, and they need to be a port variable, which it's pretty easy to create those ports. You basically go to your program, and actually it doesn't need to be OPC, I'm sorry about that. You just change the usage of your ports over here from local to out ports. So once you make them out ports, okay, you can pick them from the data logger right here, and it's pretty easy to use it. Here's the coil, here's the T1, and the other one that I just made. So these variables are going to be saved in the PLC file system as a SQL databases format. Okay, does that answer the question?
I believe so, Yuri. So thank you very much.
Yeah, if not, please ask away again.
Yeah, I'll also say Yuri showed it at the beginning, but we have our email addresses up there. Yuri, if you want to put them up again. Unless you have to reshare your screen. It's ychamarelli@phoenixcontact.com and zstank@phoenixcontact.com. For any questions that you may have after this presentation, certainly don't hesitate to reach out. and get in touch with us. And we're coming right up about 50 minutes here, Yuri. So do you have any closing comments?
Just the PLCs. I'm sharing my screen right now. Those are the units available for PLCnext Engineer. So we have a range of controllers from where you can select, and they will do the most basic application to the most demanding application. If you need a lot of processing and safety, we have the RFC 4072. And we also have the AXCF 1152 for very simple applications, would be your entry level PLC. And also, if you're looking for a way to start, we recommend the starter kit. That's a very cool part number that we have. Ask your Phoenix Contact sales rep about that one. It comes with I/O, it comes with like push buttons and analog dials. So you can kind of like, play around and start programming and learn how to program. Okay. And that's about it. I'm going to show our contacts one more time so you guys can have us. If you need to reach out, here's my email, here's Zach's email. Please don't hesitate on contact us.
All right. Thank you very much, Yuri. I want to appreciate you for your time today and going through that. Just a reminder to everybody that is watching or knows somebody that would like to see this. This is being recorded shortly following this presentation. I think it takes about a half hour. You'll be able to use the link that you used to log in here. That will be used to show this as a playback. So anybody that has recorded this or wants to view the recording, you can look at this moving forward. And you can also go to phoenixcontact.com/US-webinars. All of our webinars that we're running this year from the US side of the business are listed there. And that's where you can register for new webinars. And if you've lost the link to previous webinars, you can also go there, re-register, and that link will be used to see this again. So thank you again, Yuri. Everybody, thank you for your attention, all the great questions, and we'll see you on the next one, which is in 2 weeks.
Thank you.